Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lemon Live at 5, the Don Lemon Show. Is it okay, a little buttoned up like this? I think I'll leave it. It's a little different. No, I'm not going to do that. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm glad that you are here. What a day. What a day. Okay, so every single day I keep saying, wow, well, I guess, we're at the end of the Jeffrey Epstein story. That's going to be over pretty shortly. That's going to be, we're done with this. Don't worry about it. We're going to have to come up with something else, team. And then all hell breaks loose. So hello from Tampa to Miriam Mitchell. Let me know where you guys are. Hello to San Francisco, Maureen, everyone. So thank you so much. Someone says that they're in Israel right now. So thank you. Look. I don't know if you guys have seen what's happening today. I'm telling you, it's getting worse. And I know I keep saying it. It is getting worse and worse and worse by the minute. The more he tells people, hey, I don't want to talk about this, stop talking about it, the more they're going to continue to ask him. And so far, I've got to get, for right now, what do you do when you're like, at this moment, the media is passing? I'm not sure if I want to give them a grade, but it's from the voices that I don't usually hear. So keep on him. Keep on Donald Trump. I have the evidence. I'm going to show you what he's saying. It is unbelievable. But first, the headlines. Let's put one of the headlines up. Trump administration. The president says Epstein critics are being used by the Democrats. This has somehow now become a Democratic story. It is a Democrat's fault, which is quite shocking to me. Since Elon, God, my God, Donald Trump, it's all the same weird characters. Since Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, convicted, sent to prison, convicted, and died, it was all while Donald Trump was president. No, I've been saying that, but apparently people aren't getting the point. They don't know. The MAGA stands don't know. Even the MAGA stands that are in the know. And I'm going to show you. Have you guys seen this clip with Bill O'Reilly? Because they don't know. They hear these things. I guess they're not doing their research. They're not doing their own research like they like to do. And then all of a sudden you have people giving out the wrong information on television, people you would think would know better. How embarrassing for Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly usually on top of his game. So anyway, New York Times, that Epstein critics are being used by Democrats. Says, President Trump says Epstein critics are being used by the Democrats. Another headline. This headline is this Axios? Trump tells Politico. Trump tells those focused on Epstein he doesn't want their support. Now, you guys remember this morning, if you are in the lives, you remember me telling you, oh, wow, he is saying my former supporters or something like that. I don't know if we have the tweet from earlier. If we do, he's saying something about like those who used to support me or something like that. And I told you, I was like, he's saying the people who are not on his side with this, those are no longer his supporters. And then he explicitly came out and said exactly what I told you this morning. I told you old people be knowing. Old people be knowing. Now you see, let's see where he says it. Scrolling this a little bit because he said it and I was like, wait, why is he? Do you guys remember? Tell me if you remember this. I was saying, why is he framing it this way? Okay, so here's where it is. The new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And this is what I said. What is he saying here? Remember, I stopped and paused a little bit and fumbled. I was like, wait. And my past supporters have brought into this bullshit hook, line, and sinker. So if you don't support him, then he doesn't care. He doesn't need your support. Perhaps he's trying to shame people and say, you're no longer in the MAGA world. You're not MAGA anymore. You can't be in the club because you're not taking the bullshit hook, line, and sinker. Now, let me just tell you this, okay? And I want you to just please listen to Donald Trump, because even me, I believe in truth. I'm not anti-Trump. I've told you guys this. I'm anti-lies. I am anti-conspiracy theories. I'm anti-bullshit. I am pro-democracy. Okay. But now even his own excuses seem to ring hollow. And I think the MAGA folks hope maybe they're picking up on it. So this is him being asked about it today in the Oval Office with the Prime Minister from Bahrain there. Here it is.
Yeah. Mr. President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your Attorney General told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen of that?
No, it's not the Attorney General. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. It's I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements, we've had a great gentleman yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know what he's talking about right there. I want to bring in now Jesse Weber. Jesse is the host, reporter, and attorney for the Law and Crime Network. Jesse, thank you for joining us. What is he now? As folks do in the courtroom, as we know, when you don't have the facts, what do? I think you deflect or you pound the table. Can you explain to me the excuses in this? And if you were in a courtroom and you were litigating this case, what would you say?
So, relevance, right? Relevance, one of the first things we learn in law school, must actually apply to this. See, the problem with saying that this is all the left and this is all Biden and this is all Comey, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and was going to be prosecuted under his administration in 2019. Now, of course, there was the whole sweetheart deal that happened back in 2006, 2007. We can have a separate conversation about that, whether or not he got special protection. But if Jeffrey Epstein didn't die, he was going to be moving forward to being prosecuted by the feds. So I don't really understand when he makes the argument that this was being pushed by the left. It seems to me, Don, what's happening is leading up to his election, leading up to coming into power, it seemed there was maybe an over-exaggeration, maybe a misunderstanding about what the case was about, and over-promise and under-deliver. On one hand, we could say, oh, okay, they saw what was really behind there, and they decided, let's make sure nobody sees it, there's a cover-up. Or what might actually be the case, this is not the first time we've talked about Jeffrey Epstein. There have been lawsuits. There was the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell. There were there was depositions. The flight logs were released. The contact book was released. When they had that whole press up a few months ago with, this is first binder of the Epstein files, none of it was a shock. None of it was new. Sure, it provided a little bit more context, but that was the first alert that I said, I don't think there's anything more here. I think they're backtracking and saying, we don't have anything to deliver. And I think at the end of the day, we have to remember there's a lot of talk about Ghislaine Maxwell right now. Oh, her conviction's going to be thrown out because who did she sex traffic these minors to? She sex trafficked minors to Jeffrey Epstein. That whole prosecution was about Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. There was a misunderstanding, right or wrong, about other people going to be implicated and other people going to be prosecuted, when at the end of the day, the evidence that they may have in front of them doesn't suggest there is other perpetrators, at least at least to move forward with the prosecution. And it seems like there's backpedaling now and trying to figure out how to get away from it. Oh, Don, I think you might be muted. Sorry about that.
You're on News Nation as well, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So I have to ask you about this moment since you're on News Nation, because I think you know what I'm going to do. It happened on your network. And this was someone who was in the know. I was actually really quite surprised, but I think a lot of people who are in Donald Trump's camp who may now, from what he is saying, believe this next thing to be true, but yet it is not. So this is Bill O'Reilly on with Leland Vittert. I believe it was last night. Let's play it, and I want to get Jesse's response.
This is how disingenuous that comment was, and this is what infuriates me about these people. Jeffries knew the Biden administration had exactly the same thing the Trump administration has on Epstein. Exactly. Right. Because Epstein was convicted during the Biden administration. Not one time did Hakeem Jeffrey call for any exposition of what the Biden Justice Department knew. Not once. So this guy's a top phony, okay? He's a political player. He doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care about the people.
Hold on. Bill.
This is what
hold on.
he does.
Hold on, Bill. Hold on. You said Epstein was convicted during the Biden administration. Epstein committed suicide during the Trump administration.
Yeah, so?
How is he convicted? How do you convict a guy who's dead?
Epstein was convicted in I believe, okay, under Merrick Garland's Justice Department. That could be. Am I wrong on that? I don't think so. And then he was incarcerated, and then he committed suicide. Okay. The suicide thing is bull. I know the New York coroner's office very, very well. There's no way those people in there put a phony report about a suicide. No way. Impossible. And it's not hard to ascertain whether you committed suicide.
I think this is important. Bill, I think this is important. He was arrested in 2019, and he committed suicide in 2019. He died August 10th of 2019. So the Biden administration was not involved in a conviction or a trial of him. They were in of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Okay. And that's a good point of clarification. But he was arrested and indicted under Merrick Garland.
No, under Trump.
Who had all of the information.
Epstein was arrested, indicted, and committed suicide under Trump in 2019. Trump was president. Merrick Garland was not the attorney general.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Well, first of all, hat off to Leland Vittert, who was a colleague of mine, friend of mine, for fact checking in real time. The dates matter. The dates 100% matter. And could Epstein have been investigated? Maybe it took some time for them to build a case. Maybe it preceded Donald Trump. Probably not. It seems like it all happened when he was president. But again, it doesn't make sense. And I will tell you this as well. Whether there's more information that needs to come out, there's the political angle, right? I think there is an argument to be said. One hand, there is a lot out there where it'd be hard to believe that Jeffrey Epstein was alone, right? I think even when you look at the prosecution agreement that he had, and Ghislaine Maxwell is trying to fight her appeal, saying that she's covered under a non-prosecution agreement, that Jeffrey Epstein had these co-conspirators. He couldn't do everything alone. And I think there's one part to that. There have been through lawsuits and allegations that other people were a part of it. I get that. But also if they had something, whether it was against prominent Republicans or Donald Trump, there is an argument, would that have been released during the Biden administration? I think that's a fair argument. But what we can't say is this was all manufactured. This was all a hoax. This was all amplified by the left, when that's not fair. Pam Bondi made that comment about the papers on her desk, whether you say it was a mistake, whether she didn't really understand what she was saying, whether she's backtracking, she made the statement. There were people that were coming back who were part of the Trump administration who were saying, we're going to release everything. You're going to see what it is. It seems to me, in my experience, covering very high profile cases, it's a lack of understanding what a criminal case is about and what evidence is about. It's this idea that Jeffrey Epstein had a list of all of his clients, everybody, they had everything about them and it was going to be released. I never bought into that. Yeah. Look,
and we won't know unless the files are released, right? We won't know what's in there until the files, unless the files are released. But my question is, the reason I played that Bill O'Reilly thing is not to embarrass Bill O'Reilly. Okay, he did a perfectly good job himself. At least he said, "Okay, I stand corrected." However, there are people who are not as informed and who perhaps don't have the platform or the access to even be able to get as much information as Bill O'Reilly. And they're out there, they're Donald Trump supporters, they're MAGA people, they're non-supporters or whatever, and they may be buying into the lies of Donald Trump and those around him that this is all a Democratic thing, or as they say, a Democrat thing, when there's no actual evidence of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? You say something enough times, which Donald Trump does, that people take it as fact. And by the way, look, I want to respond to that, please, if you will. But sorry, hats off. The job to push back should have been immediate. It's his job. I agree. But I agree with you, but not everybody is doing that right now. So I have to say that Leland Vitter did the right thing, because not everybody's doing the fact checking. As we know, a lot of folks who are in the media are nervous about even being somewhat critical of Donald Trump. So I do have to say hats off to him. In normal times, perhaps not. That's what everyone would do, but I do have to say hats off to Leland. Okay, so folks may be believing lies and the media at this point, Jesse.
No, and look, the reason is because it was the communication going into this. If the Trump administration, and I think Pam Bondi and even Kash Patel or whoever else was a part of the conversation leading into it, took more of a conservative stance and said, look, I don't want to say anything about it. There might not be anything more here. So much has already been released. We'll see. We'll see. I can't promise, but I think there was this emphasis that there was going to be secrets exposed and documents that weren't handed over. And remember what happened at the very beginning. Pam Bondi accused the New York field office of the FBI of not handing over materials. That added fuel to the conversation about a cover-up. And I just don't think that helped. And I think that was problematic. Now, I can't sit here and tell you that there's information out there that we haven't seen that should be shown. I mean, it seems to me that we have the courts saying, judges saying, there's material out there, there's videos out there, there's images out there that should not be seen by the public because it is going to compromise victims in this case. It is going to re-traumatize them. Completely understand that nobody should be asking for that material to be released. What I can't tell you, since I'm not part of the investigation and I'm only looking at the reporting that has been done, is whether or not there is other material that would suggest other people are implicated, other people are named, are there other people in the videos, and that is being concealed from the public. I can't say that for sure. And the problem is that Donald Trump, the president, did have a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. But to be clear, even if you look at his contact book, he had a lot of different contacts. It doesn't mean that somebody who knew him or partied with him or hung out with him was somehow complicit in what he was accused of doing. I want to make that clear. But at the same point, the optics don't look great right now. And it seems from a political point of view, not even a legal point of view, a political point of view, trying to get out of this and saying, there's nothing there. I don't know why people are making a big deal of it. It's because it was made a big deal coming into the presidency.
Mm-hmm. Jesse, I don't know if I have been speaking to sources and you're hearing a lot of things out there, right? I hear that there are a couple pieces around the different papers, very legitimate news organizations, and they're calling people for comment. And apparently there's some big expose coming. Okay. I don't know. Have you heard anything like that? Because I've been hearing it.
I haven't per se, but I'm interested in hearing about that.
But you would not be surprised if it happened. Let me just let me say, do I want to play? Hang on one second. Let me just check my notes here, since we're fact checking and doing all this stuff in real time. So Donald Trump that was him in the Oval Office talking about, that it's a conspiracy theory. Was that the one where he's talking about no tax on tips? Did I miss that part of this? Or did we run that one yet? If we haven't, can you guys please run that one? Or was that one the one we ran?
I think it's in the next clip.
Okay, let's hear it.
This morning, you mentioned past supporters when you were talking about the Epstein issue. Does that mean that you're effectively disowning any supporters who are now calling?
There you go.
Faith
Great
in
question.
certain people. Yeah, I'd lost because they got duped by the Democrats. The Democrats are good for nothing. They've done a terrible job. They almost destroyed our country. If I didn't get elected, all these numbers you're hearing about, they found $25 billion and another 25 is coming in and hundreds of billions of dollars is pouring into our country. And we just got the biggest tax cut in history. We just got the biggest regulation cuts in history. There'll be no tax on tips. There'll be no tax on Social Security. There'll be no tax on overtime.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
What's called the weave. You haven't heard of the
Oh,
weave?
God, that's what the producer said when we were in our editorial meeting. That's a weave, but is the weave working?
Distraction, right? Distraction. Move it on to another day, move it on to another news cycle. I mean, I'll tell you, since the president took office in January, every week has looked like another season of a wild reality show. It's hard to keep track of all the things that have happened. If you can distract, if you can move on to bigger issues. Look, the Jeffrey Epstein saga is disgusting and it's horrifying, and we all should get answers, and we all should hold people accountable who somehow participated in this, if that really does exist. Having said that, he's trying to focus on issues that affect Americans day in and day out, and I can understand that. Look, the conversation's not going to end with Jeffrey Epstein. It's not going to end with Ghislaine Maxwell. There has been talk right now. A few things are happening. One, they're talking about a special prosecutor being assigned to this case, which I think would be extraordinary. Usually a special prosecutor is assigned when there's a conflict of interest, or at least you're saying that someone is going to be prosecuted, or at least someone's going to be brought up on charges. The government said last week no one else is going to be implicated in this. So I don't think a special prosecutor is going to be appointed. It's this idea of, oh, well, Ghislaine Maxwell is going to testify in front of Congress. If that happens, the conversation continues. Although I have to say, if she were to testify, I wouldn't really get it. If she had information that would have helped her legally, she would have provided that before she was ultimately prosecuted. Did she think that she would have a good chance about actually not being convicted and by the feds? Maybe.
Do we have the Elon Musk tweet from earlier, guys, that where Elon Musk said, if this is all a hoax, again, paraphrasing here, then why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison, and why did someone commit suicide if this is all a hoax? No, that's not the one I'm talking about. But he said, what, he tweeted that out. So what is that?
So Don,
this isn't the right one. He said, if this is all a hoax, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison, and why did someone commit suicide if none of this is real?
So Don, if I may, I went back and I thought it was important. I went back to the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell. It was never about her sex trafficking victims to other people. If you look at any of the language, including from the government's recent response to Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal, it is always about her doing something for Epstein, that it was her and Epstein who paid the victims. I'm just going to read something. It says the abuse followed a pattern that Maxwell and Epstein would identify vulnerable girls, that it was Maxwell and Epstein who paid victims large amounts of cash to provide Epstein with sexualized massages. There is a misunderstanding that the case against her was about sex trafficking these people to other parts, to various people, to other unnamed people. The same way we saw it in the Sean Combs case. You can have sex trafficking charges if there is one abuser, if there's one person at the top. You don't need, for purposes of those charges, to prove that Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficked victims to a plethora of different people. It can only be one person. So I think there's a misnomer there.
Okay. And you mean, what are you saying about this then?
Yeah, Elon Musk, again, with all due respect, very smart guy, but I think he's misapplying or misinterpreting what the case against Ghislaine Maxwell was. That it was about, what is she in prison for? She's in prison because she was found guilty of sex trafficking minors to Jeffrey Epstein for abuse. That's it. They proved the case. In fact, even if you disagree with me and say, I don't believe you, Jesse, she has filed an appeal. Okay, it's made its way now potentially up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's going to determine whether or not they want to hear the case. She has not made that argument. Okay, even after the revelation from the DOJ and the FBI last week, they're not saying, well, after that bombshell revelation, her conviction shouldn't stand. They're basically saying one of the reasons that she shouldn't have been prosecuted is because of the non-prosecution agreement that Jeffrey Epstein entered into, where he basically none of his co-conspirators would be prosecuted, although I can talk about that too. They haven't made the argument that she shouldn't have been prosecuted because no one else was involved. So even if you didn't believe me, her defense attorneys who are doing everything to get her out of prison, they would have jumped on that argument, and I haven't seen them do that as of yet.
Yeah. But I think basically, look, and no defense here. I'm interpreting it as saying, if this whole thing is a hoax, right? I think that's what Donald Trump is saying, or maybe he's saying his involvement or that it is somehow a cover up that the Democrats are implying that part is a hoax. I'm not sure, but he's saying if this whole thing is not real, if it is a hoax, if the people who believe in this whole thing are stupid, as Donald Trump says, then the question would be, why is this woman facing, such terrible consequences? I understand that. That's like people saying, how could Diddy be found not guilty of blah, blah, blah when you saw the tape? And I'm like, he wasn't on trial for the tape. So right. I get what you're saying about the nuances of the case. Yeah.
Not to speak for the president, but it seems what he might be saying is not that the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell was a hoax or what Jeffrey Epstein was accused of was a hoax, but this whole wide network of powerful individuals who were blackmailed and were part of this sex trafficking operation and are now being protected by the highest levels of government. That is what he might be saying is a hoax. That's my interpretation of it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. If you have some time, you can stick around. If you got to go, you can go. We're going to have.
You know what? I could stick around for another. If you want me, I don't know if you want me, but I do.
So you can stick around. But I have the great Glenn Kirschner who's with me. He's going to join you here. But I just have to. I got to pay the bills. You know how that is. So if you can stand by for 2 minutes, we'll bring Glenn in and we'll have you both talk about this. And because there's much more here that I can discuss. Okay. So Jesse Weber's here. Also, the great Glenn Kirschner is going to join us in just moments. So I need to tell you this. Support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from Lean, L-E-A-N. You know how I've been talking about Lean. I lost a couple of pounds. I had to get off of it because I was losing weight. The folks over at Lean say that there is a thing called Caroluna, and it is an edible cactus that grows in India, and it is a natural appetite suppressant. That's what they're saying. It's just one of the natural ingredients doctors added to a remarkable weight loss supplement, and it's called Lean. So if you have these bold, summer weight loss goals, but these injections that everyone is taking, the shot as they call it, everyone is taking, if that's not for you, well, the doctor said that they have formulated Lean in order to be able to do a similar thing to that. They said that this supplement is close to, as we have come to the benefits of those popular injections. Okay. So created just like the injections for healthier blood sugar and to help control appetite and cravings. All right. So with no needles, just real results. So let me get you started. 20% off. Just use the code LEMON20, LEMON20 at takelean.com. That's lemon. That's code LEMON20 at takelean.com. Now, let me just tell you this, all right? I got to tell you this. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease and is not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. Also, you guys, support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from the Wild Alaskan Company. You know how I like this fish, seafood. My mom is downstairs cooking a crawfish etouffee right now. And then later on tonight, we're going to do some grilling and cooking out or whatever. And we're going to use the Wild Alaskan, some of the seafood that I got. Okay. Nutritious, great tasting, sustainability. It's all about that for the Wild Alaskan Company. The best way to get wild-caught, perfectly proportioned, nutrient-dense seafood delivered directly to your door. Trust me, you haven't tasted fish this good. Wild Alaskan is 100% wild-caught, never farmed. That means there are no antibiotics, no GMOs or additives, just clean, real fish that support healthy oceans and fishing communities. Their fish is frozen right off the boat to lock in the taste, the texture, and the nutrition and the nutrients like omega-3s. And guess what? 100% money back guarantee. If you're not happy with your first box, the Wild Alaskan Company is going to give you a full refund. No questions asked, no risk, just high quality seafood. So not all fish is created the same. Seafood you can trust. Go to wildalaskan.com/lemon for $35 off your first box of premium wild caught seafood. That's wildalaskan.com/lemon for $35 off your first order. Thanks to the Wild Alaskan Company for sponsoring this episode. Thanks, sponsors. Back to the program now. Along with the great Jesse Weber, I am joined now by the great Glenn Kirschner. Glenn is a legal analyst and the host of Justice Matters with Glenn Kirschner podcast, an independent journalist now. We love having him on. Glenn, thank you so much for joining. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, Don. How are you? Hey, Jess, how are you?
Hey, Glenn, good to see you.
I'm great. Glenn, we've been wanting to get you on. You know, you've been spending some time with your family, and I understand that because my entire family's here, and it is nuts. First of all, I just want to get your assessment as you have been watching this, because I know you're paying attention to Donald Trump and all the excuses that he's making about what is happening with the Epstein files. First, release. This is all the Democrats or whatever, and then now stop. We don't want to.
You know, I think when he was saying release, he was probably believing that it would never be released. And, you know, when you have his attorney general, Pam Bondi, who literally answers the question, you know, she's asked specifically about the Epstein client list, and her response is, it's on my desk. She tried to walk that back later and say, I meant all the files were, well, that's not the question you answered, Pam. So she knew what she was talking about. And Don, anytime Donald Trump calls something a hoax or a witch hunt, you can probably take to the bank that there is something there, right? So, Of course, he's trying to now distract by calling it a hoax or a witch hunt. Here's what I can say as a former career prosecutor. When we investigate criminal cases, we investigate broadly. I may put 100 witnesses in the grand jury before I ask the grand jury to vote on an indictment. But when I get to trial, I try the case narrowly. I may only put 12 witnesses on the stand, or 15 or maybe 20 witnesses. So what I can say is that there is probably this incredibly voluminous body of material that was part and parcel of the criminal investigations of both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And let's not forget, when was Jeffrey Epstein indicted? July of 2019. Who was president? Donald Trump. That was his Department of Justice. When was Ghislaine Maxwell indicted? July of 2020. Donald Trump's Department of Justice. So, you know, there are tons and tons and tons of files of this, I am sure, given the way federal prosecutors go about investigating cases. Now, whether there's a client list proper, who the heck knows, but I wouldn't expect an attorney general to respond to a direct question about a client list by saying it's on my desk, unless there was a client list.
Let me ask you this, Glenn, and both of you can wait. Feel free to jump in at any time, okay, Jesse? This is free flowing. You guys are both my co-hosts today. So I want to ask you about this because, you know, Laura Loomer has been out talking, and she is a Trump stan, right? She is one of the MAGA people. She's saying that this could consume Trump's presidency. Okay, Epstein case threatened to consume Trump's presidency amid MAGA uproar. The best thing President Trump can do is appoint a special counsel so we can all get back to focusing on his extraordinary wins and his incredible deals. No need for a distraction. Let me just go on and just show some of the other stuff. Laura Loomis says they should appoint a special counsel, okay? And here is Donald Trump asking about whether a special counsel should be appointed.
President Trump, would you consider appointing a special counsel to investigate the Jeffrey Epstein investigation?
I have nothing to do with it.
I have nothing to do with it. What do you think? Should they appoint a special counsel? Let's ask the former prosecutor first.
You know, I'm not sure what the basis would be to appoint a special counsel. The prosecutions are at an end as far as we know, right? Now, I know that Ghislaine Maxwell has sought review. She filed a petition for a writ of certiorari with the Supreme Court. And we know that the Department of Justice, the Solicitor General's office, these are Donald Trump's lawyers, if not lackeys, had to request a couple of extensions of time before they could even, you know, come up with a position they wanted to file in response to her request of the Supreme Court to review the case. Maybe that was just the workload. Maybe they're overburdened. I know there's an incredible brain drain, indeed ethics drain, from the Department of Justice presently, because very few attorneys of ethics want to work for this administration. But I found it curious because ordinarily, they're going to bang out an opposition because there are so many petitions for cert for review filed in the Supreme Court every year, thousands. And ordinarily, the Solicitor General's office will just bang out oppositions. They finally did oppose it. And, the next question becomes, will the Supreme Court have any interest or appetite in accepting this case for review? I think not. There's no constitutional principle at play. There's no dispute between two federal jurisdictions, two federal circuits. So I don't expect they're going to accept the case for review. And then the question becomes, okay, where does it go from there? You need a special counsel if you're going to investigate suspected crime with a view toward perhaps prosecuting somebody. But here's the bottom line on the special counsel thing, Don. A special counsel investigation is only as good as the special counsel. And when I heard Lauren Boebert say, Matt Gaetz would make an come on, folks, really?
Of course she would say that. I mean, they would do it in a movie theater or in a play and have a little fun with it. So Jesse, what say you about the special counsel?
I said it before. First of all, then he wouldn't want that to ever happen because it undermines Pam Bondi, and he's been trying to bring her up. But number two, you need a special counsel when there's a conflict of interest, or at least there's some perception they're going to prosecute somebody. And there doesn't seem to be anything. What good would a special counsel do? Is the special counsel going to go on a fact-finding mission and find out the documents that aren't being released? That's not really what a special counsel is supposed to be doing here. It feels, again, like a distraction. Again, Glenn, I mean, this just feels to me like another example of a misunderstanding of how the legal system and the justice system and how it works and what the expectations are. And by the way, to comment on what you said regarding the government's response, it was interesting, right? So they prepared a 21-page response. It really focused on the sole issue about whether or not she is covered by a non-prosecution agreement. And it echoed a lot of what's already been said and already been determined by lower courts. And just to focus on that, because again, I think it's important since a lot of people are saying she should be released. Like I said before, even her defense team hasn't made the argument that based on this announcement from the DOJ or the FBI, it somehow affects her prosecution. But the idea that she's covered by what Jeffrey Epstein signed back in the day, this non-prosecution agreement, I think the government comes up with a good response. They said, there is no way that a United States attorney in Florida can bind every single United States attorney across the country, the entire U.S. government, can say that they can't go after any of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged co-conspirators when Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't even named in that. There were 4 people they might have been looking at that were going to get protection. And sure, there's language in there that it say it might not be limited to them, but she wasn't even a part of it. And although she says, you look at the plain language, she was protected. Every court has disagreed with her. I don't think the Supreme Court's necessarily going to take it up. They even said this is not an issue the Supreme Court should even focus on. They talked about how it's contract law. I think she's, grasping at straws right now. I do think it's interesting if she tries to do a 180 and go to the, Congress and testify, but I don't know what she'd actually have to say.
Let me play this for you guys, because Donald Trump keeps saying, this is all the Democrats and they keep bringing it up and he hasn't brought it up or whatever. But I just want you guys to look at this, both of you and the folks who are watching from home or wherever you're watching from. This is in 2015. This is at the CPAC conference. This is Donald Trump himself bringing up Jeffrey Epstein in relationship to Bill Clinton. Watch.
Bill Clinton. Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool.
Interesting that he says they bring it up. And also, I mean, it kind of goes to was that you, Jesse, or was that you, Glenn, who said that Donald Trump didn't ever think that these were ever going to come to light. So that's why he may be saying this stuff.
Yeah, I think he thought he could.
That crushes his whole argument about the Democrats are the ones who are bringing it up, by the way, but go on.
It does. And let me actually pick up on a point that Jesse made on conflicts, because why might we need a special counsel? Well, if there's an investigation into the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the files, the conduct, the conspiracy, and that investigation could tend to incriminate Donald Trump, well, then you actually do need a special counsel, because Donald Trump's Attorney General and Department of Justice couldn't be the ones running that investigation. You would need at least the insulation that a special counsel provides. I still wish we had the independent counsel statute because it provided more insulation. But, all of that aside, I don't think we're going to see a special counsel. But Donald Trump is nothing if not reckless. I mean, it seems to me that sometimes the only time he opens his mouth is to change feet, because he's always putting a foot in his mouth one way or another. And, now he has overpromised perhaps on the conspiracy theory front. It looks like his base, at least part of his base, is really angry. And I saw that post earlier today, Don. He is now lashing out pretty directly at his base. And I have to believe that's going to tend to alienate some people. So, this may be the scandal that actually takes hold and doesn't go away.
One thing I just wanted to jump in before I forget, again, going to the counter argument to why, for people who believe that Trump is doing this to protect himself, protect anybody that he knows, if that was the case, why would he have allowed the arrest and prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell as he was president? Why? And I go back to something else. If they really had something against him, wouldn't the Biden administration have released something coming into the election? That's what makes me wonder. There might not be anything really targeting the president.
Well, remember we had Merrick Garland, and a lot of folks thought he was slow on the trigger with a lot of things, especially the prosecution of Donald Trump. If it had happened earlier, maybe, the country and the world would not be in this position. And there you go. I mean, look, I don't know Jeffrey Epstein. I've never met him. I'm just, I'm being a little I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but Donald Trump says, never met him, don't know, Project 2025, I have no idea what you're talking about. Never met this woman called Melania. I don't know anything that he doesn't. But then he's there, and you've seen the video of him with them. But the interesting thing to me is, okay, I'm wondering if this breaks the spell. When you have people like, you have all the stands, you've got Tucker Carlson who's saying, something's fishy. You got Benny Johnson that's saying something fishy. You've got Candace Owens saying something fishy. And then you have, Tim Pool is pretty MAGA. He says this. Can't hear him.
People that are interested in the Jeffrey Epstein inquiry are bad people. He said only bad people and fake news are interested in the Jeffrey Epstein inquiry. I guess that puts me in the category of bad people, my friends.
What happens? Is this possibly the thing that breaks the spell? Do we know?
We can only hope, because, the MAGA base has been under his spell for so long. And, but I think even the most gullible folks might reach their breaking point when they have been overpromised something. And now not only are they being let down, but Trump is turning on them after overpromising. But let me go back to Jesse's question, because it was a really good one. Why would the Trump administration have indicted both Maxwell and Epstein if there was a risk that this could blow back on Donald Trump? And my answer to that, even though we're all talking about how many angels could dance on the head of a pin at this point, my answer to that would be, there are times, at least in the before times, right, when we had a legitimate Department of Justice, which, notwithstanding Bill Barr's, most nefarious efforts, we still had a legitimate Department of Justice for the most part during Trump 1. We didn't have this mass exodus of ethical attorneys that we are experiencing now. And there are times when the attorneys at DOJ, who were really doing the work of the American people, would stand up, would hold strong, and would be like, no, we're moving forward on cases that must be prosecuted. And I would use, by way of analogy, when Donald Trump wanted to make, what was that clown's name who's fallen from grace? He was the environmental lawyer. I can't believe him. He was dragged out of his house in his underpants when they executed the search warrant on his cell phone. Jeffrey Clark.
Yeah,
Donald Trump wanted to appoint Jeffrey Clark as the acting attorney general and the leadership of the Department of Justice. Donald Trump's Department of Justice said, over our dead body, we will resign en masse. So sometimes, to answer Jesse's question, sometimes even in the Trump administration, in Trump 1, justice won out. Charges were brought, even if maybe Donald Trump didn't necessarily want those charges because attorneys at DOJ were holding strong in a way that they're not holding now.
You could 100% be right, but wouldn't there be evidence coming out that Donald Trump didn't want that prosecuted and they went forward anyway? That would have come out. Somebody would have spoken forward and said he was trying to obstruct this. He was trying to make sure that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell didn't get prosecuted. We stood firm. You know that would have come out if that was the case.
I suspect maybe I suspect there's a lot of things about Trump 1 that we still don't know, and we may never know.
Oh boy. The boys are fighting today. No, I'm kidding. You guys are not fighting. Look, I'm gonna go to the political realm, and I know, look, you guys may not be comfortable with that. So if you want to head out, you can. But I want you to hear what the Democrats are doing, because the Democrats seem to be staying on message. The media seems to be staying on this story as well, and they're not falling for some of the distractions. So that's up to you guys. But I will tell you this: I got to pay the bills. So. Here we go. Thank you, Jesse. You're going to head out.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Good seeing you, Glenn.
Very
Take
much.
care,
Glenn,
guys.
you're going to head out as
too,
well.
Yeah, I am, Don.
All right.
I don't like to play a political analyst on TV. So
I would love to play politics, but timing-wise, I got to go. But thank you so much.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining. All right. Nice. So Jesse Weber and Glenn Kirschner, thank you so much. We appreciate them joining us. So, guys, let me just tell you this, because I got some other stuff to play for you. Wait till you see what the Democrats are doing. Representative Garcia, if you haven't seen it, he was on this program, I think last week or the week before. Wait till you hear what he said in front of Congress, in front of everyone. I know Donald Trump is not happy about it. So support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from BetterHelp. Workplace stress is now one of the top causes for declining mental health. 61% of the global workforce experiencing higher than normal levels of stress. To battle stress, most of us can't just say goodbye to work, wave it away, but you have to start small with a focus on wellness. A holiday is great, a vacation is great, but it isn't a long-term solution for stress. So don't forget, therapy can help you navigate whatever challenges the workday or any day might bring. That's where BetterHelp comes in. More than 30,000 licensed therapists, more than 5 years experience, more than 10 years experience, 5 million people globally, okay? It's got a great rating, 4.9 out of 5 on the app. Convenient. It is the world's largest online therapy provider. BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Don Lemon. That's betterhelp.com/Don Lemon. Convenient. You can join a session at any time. You can switch therapists at any point if you want. It's just with a click of a button. BetterHelp.com/Don Lemon. Support for the show today also comes from Beam. You know you need a good night's rest. It's hard sometimes getting rest with all of the stressful issues that are going on, especially the stuff that's happening in the news right now. You see, Donald Trump is trying to overwhelm us, right? The right is trying to overwhelm us, just like what one of the folks said. You know his name. He said they're just going to do a fire hose of of news, and they're just going to overwhelm you. But you have to get some sleep, and you have to be ready to fight. So that's why I turned to Beam's Dream Powder. That's what I've done. It's a natural sleep blend designed to help you get the deep restorative rest your body and mind need to stay in the fight. Because here's the truth. You can't stay in the fight without the rest. Science-backed ingredients that are natural ingredients like melatonin, etc., helps you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up ready to organize, resist, and raise hell without the fog of the crash. Since I've started, my focus is back, my energy's returned. Can't you guys see? I'm early every day to the live shots because I have so much energy and I'm ready. Okay, so I'm not the only one, though, that it has helped. Beam's Dream Powder has improved over 17.5 million nights of sleep for people across the country. Right now, Beam is offering up to 40% off of their best-selling Dream Powder for my listeners. It is a limited time offer and the perfect way to overcome that exhaustion and stay in the fight every day. So go to shopbeam.com/lemon and use the code lemon at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/lemon. Use the code lemon for up to 40% off. Sleep well, wake up ready. The fight continues. Thank you, sponsors. I appreciate it. So you guys have been seeing the photos we're putting up of Donald Trump. Supposedly, he doesn't know anything. He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea what's going on. Let me just show you what some of the folks over at the MAGA are doing. I played to you what Tim Pool said, okay? And I showed you what Laura Loomer is saying. Let me just show you. This is Matt Walsh, who is slamming Trump over Epstein. Matt Walsh is saying the administration invited influencers to the White House, handed them binders that said Epstein Files Phase 1, and staged a photo op outside with the binders. Now, Trump calls the whole thing a dumb hoax. There's just no way for an honest person to look at this set of facts and come away with the conclusion that the administration is in the right on this issue. This is Matt Walsh. If you know about conservative Trump glazers, people who don't usually operate in facts, many times. Then you have Michael Flynn Jr., who is slamming Trump over Epstein. Michael Flynn Jr., you know who Michael Flynn is, right? His dad is whatever. Okay, Michael Flynn Jr. says, I can't stand being gaslit. That's what he's saying. And then you have Riley Gaines, who is also slamming Trump over Epstein. Riley Gaines is saying, was it stupid and foolish when he campaigned on releasing the files? Are Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Alina Habba all foolish and stupid for peddling this for the past 6 months? Why on earth is he doing this? Riley Gaines, if you could answer that question, please answer that question for us. Now, you guys know I like to play things for you that they're not necessarily sexy or provocative, but I think this is the energy. Remember this morning on the live on Hot Topics, I said, I love the messaging here. I love where they're going with this, but more energy. Give me some firebrands out there. That's what the Democrats need. They need to stay on message. They need to stay on point. And lo and behold, along comes Robert Garcia, who must have heard what I said, because he is right on point. Please sit back, grab a drink or whatever it is that you have, and listen to Representative Garcia tearing into Trump for the Epstein files.
I rise today to demand that Donald Trump and our Attorney General come clean to the American people and release the Epstein files. Now, this weekend, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "Let's not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about." Well, Mr. President, a lot of people actually care. And we know that MAGA was all in on Jeffrey Epstein. Now, my Republican colleagues have sent letters, they've posted, they've demanded disclosure. Donald Trump Jr., the president's own son, has tweeted dozens of times about this case. FBI Director Kash Patel swore under oath in front of the Senate that he would be transparent with the American public and release the Epstein files. He said, and I want to quote, "Make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened," that he would do that. That was his quote. Now, in February, our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, told Fox News that Epstein's client list was, again, and I quote, "sitting on my desk right now to review," end quote. Now, they claim there was never a list. And this weekend, Donald Trump claimed that the files were written by Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the Biden administration. These are bizarre reversals. And it's obvious to the American public. Someone is lying, and someone is trying to hide something. So let's look at the facts. We know Elon Musk said publicly on June 5th that Donald Trump is mentioned in the Epstein files. We know that Epstein died in a federal prison overseen by Donald Trump's Department of Justice. We know that Jeffrey Epstein in 2008 was given a generous non-prosecution agreement for sex trafficking charges. Now, that agreement let him continue his criminal activities, and that agreement was offered by Alexandra Acosta, who was Donald Trump's chosen Secretary of Labor. That's not all. We know that Donald Trump and Epstein had a long-standing personal relationship. Epstein told one writer, and I quote, "I was Donald Trump's closest friend for 10 years," end quote. Donald Trump told New York Magazine in 2002, and I want to quote this. Quote, this is Donald Trump. "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life, unquote. That's disgusting, wrong, and we must inquire more information. The truth is we don't know what the facts are in this case.
So there you go. That is the energy that they need. The Democrats. That's the energy we all need, especially those of us who are on the side of truth, on the side of democracy, on the side of transparency, on the side of the First Amendment, the Constitution. That's what we need. I don't understand how anyone could think of it any other way. Now, I've said that before, but this time in particular. And it finally seems like I wouldn't say I would hold my breath. At this point, I might hold it for a little bit, but not all the way. That these Trump folks are going to come around and all of a sudden they're going to realize that they have been lied to. But it appears to me, as I am watching and listening to Donald Trump lately, it always sounds to me that he can be convincing. I can understand when I'm listening to him, even though I know that he's lying. I can understand when I'm listening to him why his folks believe him, because he sounds like he's telling the truth. He said it so much to them, not to me. He may sound like he's telling the truth because he says it with such confidence, and he says it so often that they start to believe it. But he also, and the folks who have been his, main folks who are out there, have said and repeated this conspiracy theory with such verve, such confidence, that it leads you to believe that it is true, or led many people to believe that it is true. And then now all of a sudden, wait, whoa, stop. So then everyone wants to know, well, wait, were you selling us a bill of goods? Okay. So I believed you on all the other stuff, which was odd that you believed him on so many other things, and then to elect him twice. All right. Okay. But perhaps if you operate in those realms, it may not be the things that we deem as real, as big, as factual, as fact-based, as policy-driven. That may not be the thing. Perhaps the thing that will take him down is the very thing that he operated in, where he trafficked in, where his supporters trafficked in, and that was conspiracy theories and hoaxes. So wouldn't it be just, let's say unbelievable, I would say fitting, apropos, as one would say. Wouldn't it be apropos if the very thing that takes him down, perhaps, at least breaks the spell, is a conspiracy theory and a hoax? Who's he going to pardon for this? No, he could pardon all the folks who are around him, but there's no one to pardon for all the lies that you see and that you've been told and that's out there. There's no one to pardon for that. How's he going to get out of this one? Can he get out of this one? Now, I'm just going to tell you, Andy, get me the Bill O'Reilly thing again. This is what it's like in real time. This is why people are so reluctant to admit when they are wrong. To admit it's cognitive dissonance, all of that. They're so reluctant to admit when they are wrong, and it's so shocking to the system that people don't like to do it. They just don't like to do it. So Bill O'Reilly, again, I'm not doing this to embarrass Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly is a person of means, a man who is educated, who's been around. He had a show on Fox for years. He was the star. Very politically knowledgeable. And for him not to understand the nuances, and not just the nuances, the facts of this case. Imagine if you're just someone who is sitting in front of the television and you're watching Fox News, or you're watching OAN, I don't even know if that's still on anymore, or you're watching Newsmax, or you're watching News Nation, if you're just watching, if you're, wherever, I don't know which, I think most of them are conservative, but if you're sitting there all day and you're listening to conservative radio, you're watching conservative media, and you're on Truth Social and all the other things that it's on Rumble and all of these other conservative sites, imagine if that's all that you're hearing. And you're not like a Bill O'Reilly who, I'm sure Bill O'Reilly reads. And so one might understand if you put yourself in that position. That's my thing. Remember, I told you about the issue I had with the thing. If you put yourself in that position, then it's no wonder that you would end up falling for misinformation like Bill O'Reilly. Play it again, because I want you to understand this is what it's like when people are broken from the spell. Here it is.
This is how disingenuous that comment was, and this is what infuriates me about these people. Jeffries knew the Biden administration had exactly the same thing the Trump administration has on Epstein. Exactly. Right. Because Epstein was convicted during the Biden administration. Not one time did Hakeem Jeffries call for any exposition of what the Biden Justice Department knew. Not once. So this guy's a top phony, okay? He's a political player. He doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care about the people.
Hold on, Bill.
This is what
hold on.
he does.
Hold on, Bill. Hold on. You said Epstein was convicted during the Biden administration. Epstein committed suicide during the Trump administration.
Yeah, so?
How is he convicted? How do you convict a guy who's dead?
Epstein was convicted in, I believe, okay, under Merrick Garland's Justice Department. That could be. Am I wrong on that? I don't think so. And then he was incarcerated, and then he committed suicide. Okay. The suicide thing is bull. I know the New York coroner's office very, very well. There's no way those people in there put a phony report about a suicide. No way. Impossible. And it's not hard to ascertain whether you committed suicide.
I think this is important. Bill, I think this is important. He was arrested in 2019, and he committed suicide in 2019. He died August 10th of 2019. So the Biden administration was not involved in a conviction or a trial of him. They were of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Okay. And that's a good point of clarification. But he was arrested and indicted under Merrick Garland.
No, under Trump.
Who had all of the information.
Epstein was arrested, indicted, and committed suicide under Trump. In 2019, Trump was president. Merrick Garland was not the attorney general.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Now, at least he can admit that he stands corrected, at least, just the very least. But I mean, wow. Do you guys get my point? Do you understand what I'm saying? That's kind of what it's like. By the way, the carbon monoxide detector alarm with the beep was like, I mean, it's perfect for breaking the spell. So there you go. I mean, Bill O'Reilly did come from Fox News. He is in conservative things, so perhaps he's been in the bubble in the echo chamber for far too long. So there you have it. And now you are informed. And I appreciate you joining us. And I'm going to go have some crawfish etouffee that my mom is cooking. By the way, this is the thing. Did you guys hear? That's the end of my carbon monoxide detector, and I can't find it anyway. I have to order it. So it's going to be 2 days. You may be hearing some beeps randomly. It's not a battery. Someone said that smoke detector battery. No, I have batteries to change that, but this is a carbon monoxide alarm that's at the end of its life. So there is no changing the battery. You have to get a whole new system, and this one is discontinued. So I had to get a new one. Okay. So everyone, how do you feel about Hakeem? Someone says, how do you feel about Hakeem's someone, oh, this is pretty funny. I like this. As a smart smoke detector was detected, Bill. It's not a smoke detector again. It's a carbon monoxide thing. But anyways, let's see. Someone said, how do I feel about Don? How do you feel about Hakeem Jeffries in leadership position? I think Hakeem Jeffries is a very smart man. I've said this before. He was on the program. I have told him I think that they need to get out there a bit more. Then they needed some more energy. I don't know if he's the front man. That's how I put it judiciously. I'm not sure he's the front man. I think they need someone like a Garcia. They need more of a firebrand out there leading the way. The folks like Hakeem Jeffries who know DC and all that, here's what they need to do. They need to be behind the scenes strategizing for, like Nancy Pelosi did. Here's what you do, here's what you do, here's what you do. But then put the folks out front. But also listen to the front, to the younger people, because they've got their fingers on the pulse. And get on digital as much as possible. That's what I would say. Okay? All right. So everyone, I appreciate you joining us today. Make sure, we always say hit the like, the thumbs up. The engagement has been terrific. Thank you guys so much for engaging. This story, it has been amazing. So thank you so much for that. Make sure you become a member, because you know that's how we stay streaming. That's how we stay independent. That's how we can stay here telling you the truth without fear or favor. And also hit the subscribe button. And I want you guys to know that on July 12th, I'm going to be at City Winery with D.L. Hughley. And so get your tickets. It's going to be a great evening. We're going to discuss all the things on August 12th, 7:30 p.m. City Winery right here in New York City. DL plus DL, Anything Goes, episode 2, Don Lemon and DL Hughley. The first one was such a success. It sold out. People love it and they want it. So back by popular demand on August 12th. That's what we'll do. Also, check out our merch. Folks have been asking about the hats and whatever, the one that I'm wearing. It's my favorite so far. I'll try to wear the darker one tomorrow. So check out our merch store. All you have to do is go to donlemon.com, click on merch, and you're right there. Or you can go onto the main page of our YouTube page and click on shop, and that's where you can find, there it is right there. That's where you can find, just click on store, not shop. Click on store, and there it is. Those are the things. Okay. I know you guys are saying, come to California, come to this, come to that. In order for us to come there, there's got to be some demand. You guys have to come and buy tickets. You guys have to, sell it out in order to make it worth our while. Okay. August, not July, August 12th, City Winery, Don Lemon, D.L. Hughley. D.L. Hughley has been on a roll lately. He has been on fire, en fuego. Okay. So you guys know what I always say. You can be informed without being inundated, okay? So until I see you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time for Hot Topics, turn the TV off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never, ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.